You have your con tickets. You have your costume. All of your friends are ready to go. Your costume's ready, except you're missing one thing. The wig. Have you ever had a wig where you're like, what the heck is that? Where do I even start? Well, I've been there too, and worry not, I'm here for you. We're going to work together on Chuuya Nakahara for Bungou Stray Dogs. Please feel free to subscribe. It helps me a lot. It shows your support for the channel, and it also helps me get into the algorithm for other cosplayers to find my channel so I can help them as well with their wig endeavors. If this is too much for you and wig making may not be your thing, I actually do take commissions, and you can find my form down below if you would like to fill it out. I answer every Friday, and thank you so much for taking the time to watch my video. If you would like to know how to resize your mannequin head, I do have a tutorial on it. You can check it out right over here. And let's get to the tutorial. This wig has a lot of different parts to it. So the very first thing that we're gonna do is we're gonna start from the bottom and go to the top. Do not go from the top to the bottom. It's going to screw up your ratios of spiking. We're gonna try and get through this without swearing at the wig too much, so bear with me. Whenever I'm making a wig, the very first thing I do is I always crimp, but this is by your choice. You don't have to do if you don't want to, but it does add a lot more dexterity to the wig, and those spikes are going to hold really well for you. I'm going to start at the bottom. I sectioned off the tail area, and I'm going to actually cut the hair at the nape of the neck. We're going to make it a little longer than we need because it's better to have more than too little, since you can't really go backwards. You can glue hair on, but it's not as clean. It's not a great idea. Mostly what I did is I removed the bulk from the hair, and I would tease it to create these types of spikes. Now the spikes, because they would be teased on the inside, would have a lot more structure to them. And if I took hairspray and I sprayed it on the inside and set it, that spike is not going to move. Even through a wind tunnel, it would still stay just fine. My favorite spray to use is got to be Free Spray. I suggest that, but you can go for a lighter one if you want your wig to be a little softer. Always pick out your teasing. You don't want big clumps of knots in your wig. It's just not very clean. To clean up the outside of the spike, I actually take a steamer and I go through the hair and I put all the flyaways down. It really helps you to shape the form too, since the hairspray's in there. You're activating the hairspray to grip the hair more, and you can actually mold it almost like you can with like fondant chocolate. It's pretty cool. You could burn yourself though, so be mindful of that. Always watch where you're going around your ear. You need to be careful. And we're gonna go back to the spikes in a little bit. But if you want to clean up those spikes, I highly suggest just brushing it. That's how wig makers keep their wigs so clean. Just brush and brush, steam, brush, remove bulk, brush. It's very repetitive, but in the end, it's gonna work out. I went to the face framing spike and I took a slithering technique and removed a lot of the bulk from the wig. I also used some point cutting to remove more of those frays. I don't want the wig to be a block cut, like a blunt cut, because if that happens, my spikes aren't going to have that really nice little point to them, which I really want. Now, in order to do the back, I kind of tapered down the hair. I would take down a couple wefts per time and just add it to the back of the nape of the neck. And take my rat tail comb, which is the long comb you see right here, and adjust the hair to where I need it to be. Surprisingly, the steam is awesome at heating up those plastic fibers, so when it cools, it actually cools in the form that you want it to be in the first place. Now I'm gonna go back in and just slowly add those spikes. The most important thing is to break this wig down into parts. You start from the bottom and go to the top. So right now we're heading towards the midsection. Do it in little pieces. It's gonna make the wig way easier to deal with than just going from the top down. The next thing I like to do when I remove some of that hair is I like to brush through the hair again. I don't want all of those spray, like those little itty bitty wisps to like lay around everywhere, because it can make my spikes really dirty. A lot of this work is just repetitive work. You're gonna brush, you're gonna pick out all of those teasing areas, you're gonna steam it. And that's pretty much like 90% of wig making, unless you're going to structure forms, which we'll talk about at a different time. But when you're doing these nice little points to your spikes, always point cut, remove the bulk, adjust as needed, do little bits at a time. If you cut off too much, you can't go back. It doesn't work, trust me. I've been there, and so have a lot of other wig stylists too. I took my steamer and I adjusted each little spike that I made. It's interesting, when you steam it, it reactivates the bendability of the spike, and you can actually put it around your cheek or adjust it how far you want it away from your face, and it just works out. We're gonna go back to tapering. I think I did like maybe 3 layers of tapering in the back of this wig. It's a lot, I understand, but these little pieces, taking it section by section, is gonna really help you. Always have your rat tail comb handy. It's the best tool. It's one of my favorites. I keep it with me all the time, along with my steamer. I go back with the steamer, I clean up all the spikes, I double check for any flyaways, and I also liked to take the tail of the comb and kind of move the spikes away from the nape of the neck, because the spikes can be kind of pointy sometimes, and what will happen is when you're moving your head around, it might jab into the back of your client or your own neck, which is really uncomfortable. Now onto the front. So I actually put a piece of felt right along the hairline to reinforce it, since I'm actually going to be making a glued hairline. So since I'm making a glued hairline, I need some type of sturdy structure to glue that hair onto. I was working on the bangs right above his eye because I noticed that it kind of curtain bangs a little bit, just like this. It's just a lot of playing around. Sometimes it's hard to explain the wigs, but I can give you a pretty good general gist of how to handle it. So I went around and I steamed again. I was creating the little wisps in front of his face, which were my favorite part, but I noticed that it was chunky and I didn't like that. All you have to do to remove bulk is take your thinning shears and just take some of that hair off, which you'll see me do in the end. Now on the side of the head is the difficult part, which is the hairline. His hairline makes no sense. It doesn't work. So what I had to do is I kind of just started molding it. Since the hair has been teased and it also has been reinforced with steam and the crimp marks, it all works together to create kind of like this Play-Doh-like effect. I can move the hair where I want it to be and it'll sculpt to my fingers. Now, when you glue down your hairline, you might notice that there's some glue. Don't worry about it. Just take some acetone, and I'm talking about like not nail polish acetone, like heavy acetone, 100%. And you're going to put it on a cotton swab and just clean it up and it'll take the glue off. Not big globs of glue, just like thin layers of it, like film of it. To reinforce the tips of the hair, I like to use 50% water, 50% Eileen's tacky glue, and I just touch up those little spikes. I decided to do this at this time because I was worried that if I was steaming the bangs on the side of his face that kind of like curve over, I was worried that the bangs underneath might actually start sagging and losing their shape at the end, and I didn't really want to go rework it, so I just glued it down. So for the bangs that go around the side of his face, I remove the bulk, I brush it out, always brush, please do not forget, and I actually took away some more of that bulk. There was a lot of hair. I'd rather have more hair than not enough. It's like a golden rule. Now, I could actually mold this hair however I wanted with a steamer, and it'll stay in place. It's actually quite surprising. The first time I tried it with wig making, I didn't think it was gonna work that well, but these things can last a long time. It's sculpting. You're making a sculpture for your head, and this is the final look. I was extremely happy with it, and I really loved all the spikes. It worked well. Please feel free to leave a comment below on some wig questions you might have, or perhaps a tutorial that you would like to do. I love challenges, and one of the challenges I'm eyeballing right now is Hatsune Miku. It's ridiculous. It's huge. It's like she's got clubs on her head, but with rings. It's very strange. I want to tackle it for sure. Just for like fun, you know? Like sometimes it's just interesting to take on something that looks like it's impossible and make it possible, right? Thank you so much for your time, and I'll see you in the next video.